And
We serve at your pleasure, sir.
no, you don't really.
I concede you're right.
I appreciate your courtesy. We scheduled this hearing on March the 3rd because of what would happen if we don't do our job here. And I'm going to ask you a question in just a moment of what the consequences would be to patients all over the country if by July 27th we don't decide what we think about these agreements and you have to fire 5,000 people. What the consequences will be to the enormous advances that we laid in place for the 21st Century Act. So I'll ask you that in just a minute. As far as the FDA hiring freeze, I can answer that question. That's a problem. That needs to be lifted as soon as it can be because one of the major advances of the 21st Century Cures Act was to give the FDA new authority to hire the people it needed and pay them what needed to be paid to them so they could approve the drugs that we complain are not getting through the investment and regulatory process and into doctors' offices. So I can give my opinion on that, and that's my goal. I hope the administration will quickly recognize the importance of that. And so far as the amendments to the Affordable Care Act, without dwelling on that, because I want to spend the time here on this important act, I think we can do two things at once in the United States Senate. It's true there, you know, we proceeded on two tracks when we passed the Affordable Care Act. One was the part that required 60 votes. There were plenty of hearings there. One was the reconciliation track. There were almost none there. In fact, there was no train that ran through the Congress faster than the Obamacare reconciliation bill. Went through in 8 days. Budget to the floor in the Senate, then back to the Senate and out to the President. So there's already been much more deliberation on the current amendments than there were on the reconciliation in 2010. And on the part that requires 60 votes, which is the only way we'll get lasting, durable changes to our healthcare system, there will have to be a lot of hearings. We had one a month ago on what I consider the real humanitarian crisis, which are the 231,000 Tennesseans who will have zero health care options in 2018 if Congress does not act to fix the problems with what is a collapsing, failing individual market caused by the Affordable Care Act. So we proceeded on two tracks in 2009 and 10. We're proceeding on two tracks today. The track on reconciliation has more deliberation than the one did in 2010. Now let me ask my question. What would be the impact if Congress does not act by the end of July, 60 days before the expiration of the current agreements? What would be the impact on the Food and Drug Administration if we fail to do that? And I'll ask each of you that question.
We would have to follow the government rules for preparing to let go a large number of people, as you said, across those user fee programs, because we would have to prepare to issue notices of reduction in force if those user fee programs were not reauthorized, and we wouldn't be getting the money. There are carryover balances that are carried within each of the programs that allow for an orderly shutdown. But I think your question is more, what would then the impact be on
what would the effect be on patients and on new drugs and on life-saving devices?
Peter, you want to start?
So we have literally hundreds of investigational new drug applications that are a part of user fee programs. The ability to hold meetings in a timely manner, the ability to make sure those approvals happen in a timely manner, to get products to patients with medical need would be adversely impacted severely.
Dr. Shuren?
We'd lose about a third of our people, and it's not just that reviews will take longer, but the industry, which now is starting to bring their innovative technologies to the U.S. early, sometimes first, as you heard with the artificial pancreas, they're going elsewhere. And I'm already hearing from companies, if the U.S. doesn't work out right, it's not just Europe, it's now China and elsewhere.
But I'm not exaggerating when I say that if we don't act, the President doesn't sign the bill by July 27th, I believe it is, then you have to take these steps. Is that correct?
Must initiate them, yes. We must do the reduction in force would start at the
So
time.
you send letters to employees saying you're going to be laid off in 60 days, is that right?
We would begin a process to do that. We have to identify the people. There's an elaborate system of how you figure out who is what, but everyone would know this is going on.
An application for a cancer therapy or cure that might be before reviewers might be delayed.
Yes, and we know right now we have patients living sort of hand to mouth with young people with brain tumors or other cancers who are waiting for the next effective therapy to come along as they develop resistance to current, I heard from a Senate staffer, ex-staffer about this who has lived a long time, been able to work because there's been successive approvals of drugs for his cancer that have kept him alive. And this would be repeated over and over. And most concerningly, I think, in the biologics area for the pharmaceuticals, the gene therapies, the cellular therapies, the very innovative treatments require oversight in the investigational phase because any slip up there can last for 10 years and set the entire field back.
Okay. Thank you very much. Senator Hassan.